Hi, so I'm Alex Zhuk. I'm junior at Viewpoint School, and today I'm going to talk to you about use of drones in agriculture and how the developments in drones and the sensor that they carry is going to transform how farmers analyze the crops, and as a result, there will be less waste of pesticide and water while more yield result. So first, I want to go over what the public presently thinks of drones. If you ask a normal person today what they think a drone is, most likely they will just, the image that pops up in your head is usually of a predator. It's a military drone that's used in combat foreign countries. Or something on the opposite spectrum, which is an affordable toy that's been available for the past few years due to lowering costs and increased technology. Now, the toy part and as well as the military part raise concerns. People are concerned about the fact that people can use these small drones in a negative way to invade people's privacy, as well as just the fact that they're dangerous and due to people flying them without prior experience, they can harm. So the view of most people on the idea of drones is very negative and very narrow. However, in reality, drones have been experimented and adapted into many different fields. For example, there has been experimentation on to use drones to deliver packages, and although we're not going to see Amazon Prime Air for a few years due to FAA regulations as well as reliability issues, in the future, that type of knowledge can actually be used to deliver medicine and vaccines to rural areas where actual medical establishments aren't there, and that potentially could save lives. Similar story of civil services. There are firefighter departments now, as well as search and rescue departments, that are using thermal cameras in drones to detect people in buildings or in fields where they couldn't be visible with regular cameras, and that actually has saved lives. An interesting scenario was when an elderly patient with Alzheimer's was lost in a forest, and they had a team that couldn't find him for 3 days, but there was a man who was able to get his aerial vehicle and find a pattern over a large area, and within a couple of hours actually found the person and saved his life. That's very interesting. As well as surveying. You can apply drones with cameras to surveying where putting people is a high risk, such as windmill turbines, the very large 100-foot ones, high ones, as well as solar panels and other structures where you just need visual confirmation and measurements. And lastly, but I think more importantly, is the use of drones in precision agriculture, giving the farmers the data they need to make accurate decisions to save their crops, but still reducing waste and water and pesticides. So more in detail, why use drones in agriculture? Well, if you look at the population trend for the past decades or even a century, population has continued to rise, but actually the rate has also continued to rise. So the population versus time is actually exponential. And thus, if you look at the deforestation graph, to feed all of those people, even with new technologies, we have to cut down more and more land to a point where ruining natural habitats that were established before us just to feed. Statistic is 64% of land that's been cut away and destroyed is used only for agriculture. No minerals, not lumber, no material, just to serve as a place for agriculture. Also, there's the way that most of the farmers actually apply pesticides. They use crop dusters and they just spray generally pesticide on their farms. They don't take into account what parts need it most of the field, what parts need it less. And thus has both negative effects on the farmer because it's more cost and it doesn't have any beneficial effect, but also on the environment because a lot of that pesticide is actually runoff and waste, either through wind or through water, and that has negative impact on the habitat surrounding the farms. And as highlighted before, the result of such systems is that using different sensors, you can actually get a graphical representation of the field and the productivity of the crops. And then the farmer can actually focus on the parts that are under stress and not waste on the other parts, as well as detect stress before permanent damage is applied to the plants by constantly monitoring the plants. And that, in the end, by season, actually reduces the amount of plants that you have to discard as product, impacting everybody positively, both the consumer and the producer of crops. So the common procedure of how the adopters use drones is, in idea, simple. You usually plan a fight using software, mostly open source, kind of like in this plane. You highlight an area, and then computer software creates a grid pattern over which then the plane, once launched, will fly over a grid pattern. Then the plane gets launched once the data is uploaded. And then, using different sensors, usually by distance intervals, say every 50 meters, the drone will collect data and take a picture every 50 meters and collect that over a lifespan of, say, 200 acres. After that, after all the data is collected and the mission is completed, the drone lands and the data is collected both from the computer for GPS data and the angular data, as well as from cameras. And that has a lot of interesting uses. The most common is NDVI. NDVI is basically a measurement of the amount of infrared light reflected compared to visual light reflected. Healthy plants only reflect large amounts of infrared light, but they absorb all other wavelengths, or the actual chlorophyll molecules inside the plant. While plants under stress, or unhealthy plants, reflect more of all other wavelengths. So by using a simple formula, and by using two different cameras with different wavelengths, one infrared and one visual, a farmer using software can get a graphical representation of the relative photosynthetic productivity of how healthy the plants are, the crops are on the field. And that has a lot of benefits because, once again, you can isolate the areas of actual under stress, and then you can focus and investigate why only that area is under stress and why those parts of the plants are dying. The next useful data type is 3D elevation models. While these data is usually used in construction surveying for large buildings and metric measurement, these can also be useful for planting, because you can plan the slope and the flood height, and also if you have a crop actual field and you get a very high accurate camera, you can actually create 3D model of your field, including the 3D models of the plants. So you can do artificial counting of how many crops you have, the space between them, how compact, and other interesting data. And finally, but interesting as well, is the use of thermal imagery to detect irrigation problems and leaks. Because by using thermal imagery on a relatively similar field, the harder parts are usually parts that are depleted of water. So if you have a single part that is drastically different from the other part of the field, you can actually detect a leakage problem or irrigation system problem before the damage is done to the actual plants, thus saving plants. And my message to you all is, in conclusion, is that world hunger is still a very large problem today. Even though we're in the 21st century of all this amazing technology, people are still starving. So I believe that this technology will allow more people to feed, because this will allow farmers to get more yield while still harming their environment less, and not forcing us to deforestate as much and not ruin the habitats that were established before us. Thank you for listening.